Hi, everyone. Welcome to Retire with Style. And we're continuing a conversation begun last week with Beth Pinsker, the author of the new book, My Mother's Money, A Guide to Financial Caregiving. Last week, we primarily were talking about issues when you're caring for someone who is alive, but maybe at the incapacitated state. This week, we want to move on to really the second part of the conversation, which is what happens if you suddenly find yourself as an executor or administrator of an estate, and how helpful it would be to have that power given to you in advance, but also what happens if you don't have that power, and still how nothing's ever easy with any of this. We got into some of those difficulties, real life experiences Beth had last week, and we'll continue now with the post-life portion of the conversation. I don't know how to phrase that, but you find yourself as an executor of an estate or an administrator. I think the terminology varies state by state, but you're in charge for probate. Or there may be ways we should probably talk about the trusts as well. As your mother did a great job setting up a living trust to help avoid probate for not everything. You can never avoid everything. But let's talk about estate planning and the really valuable experiences you shared with readers in My Mother's Money. Again, for anyone thinking about this as an inevitability, we either for ourselves or for needing to play this role for someone else. If it hasn't happened yet, it's something that's always in the background. This is a great book, My Mother's Money, to really understand better what that experience is like. So estate planning.
Estate planning. I think the fancy word is legacy. You want to talk about your legacy. Because people want to leave things behind that are good and not bad.
Mhm.
And if you don't take care of some of these things, what you're going to leave behind is a mess right when people are grieving. And the numbers I put on this are it's like the $84 trillion great wealth transfer. But only
Mhm.
30% of people have any sort of documents in place to help that transfer. So where's all that? How is all that $84 trillion of assets and money and property and stuff? How's it all going to get to the next generation? If only 30% of people have said anything about their wishes for that, like it's all going to be a mess. And when you look at the numbers too, that 30% is like the national figure. When you go to high net worth people who have advisors, they have lawyers, they have all sorts of people in their corner,
Mhm.
the number only goes up to 50. 50%
wow.
of wealthy people have an estate plan of any sort, and that usually just means a will. So what are you gonna? How's that money gonna get to anybody? It's
Yeah,
gonna
maybe to
be.
really drill that point home.
Sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
just to drill that point home, you talk about in the book speaking to estate planning attorneys who effectively transitioned their business. They gave up trying to convince people to prepare in advance, and they shifted their efforts to
The
probably
aftermath.
the much more lucrative field of helping people who didn't have those documents in place, and so have to
Yeah.
recreate everything after the fact.
Yeah, I have delved into and this is one of the problems as a reporter in dealing with trying to quantify this problem is that the probate court system is not national. It's county level. And so to find probate cases and how many there are and what stage they're in and who's involved in probate cases, you have to go to each county's database. And it's hit or miss whether they have very good electronic archives. But, I would spot check, for instance, my county in Brooklyn, and I would go to the probate court database, and like at any given time, there were so many probate cases open, you wouldn't even believe. And these are cases of not wills just being filed and probated, but probate cases for the family to get into the safety deposit box where the will was kept. Right. So they didn't have a power of attorney or any bank access to get into the accounts or the safety deposit box. And the person kept their will inside the safety deposit box. And so they had to go to court to even get the will to then put the will into probate. Like people just don't know the ins and outs of these things, and they think they're protecting the documents, and really what they're doing is locking the documents up and throwing away the key, because nobody can get in to get them. When I asked one
Yeah, yeah.
lawyer, how often she has to go to, court to get access to a safe deposit box, she's like, I don't I can't even count that high. Like, I can't even keep track of how many times the family comes to me and they're like, the will's in the safe deposit box," and she's like, "Okay, well, we'll start there. Here's my here's my rate sheet." Um, and it costs a lot of money. It's a lot of hours for a lawyer's time. And if they're going to charge two, three, $400 an hour, they have to prepare the case. They got to go to court. Um, this is not something that's easily settled if you don't have the paperwork in your hands, or they don't have the paperwork at all. So 70% of Americans are going to have somebody die and there's just nothing. And they're going to have to start at court.
And even if, well, there's a natural, each state's going to have an ordering, but I think one of the areas where you were very fortunate, just you and your brother agreed on everything. But if that goes to court and siblings may be at odds with what to do, there could be a real battle just to figure out which sibling might ultimately become the administrator.
Not could, is like like the case logs are full of families fighting about this stuff. Like the fights are just over everything. I mean, people told me such crazy stories, and some of them are in the book, and some of them were just too crazy. People will fight over anything. And
Now,
cases, it's not just like, who's going to be in charge. There's who gets the stuff, who gets how much of the stuff. And then there's fights over like the people, if mom named me, if my mom named me as trustee over her estate and my brother didn't think I was doing a good job, a good portion of the lawsuits are the other family members suing to get that person who was named trustee removed and replaced. And there are celebrity cases that are going on of this sort. Tony Bennett, his kids are arguing in court endlessly about who should be the trustee. um, Rupert Murdoch went to court to try to change and remove some of his kids from the trust. It was an irrevocable trust, and so they wouldn't let him. But then they went and renegotiated, and the kids all came to some sort of agreement. Like, these cases are just everywhere, from rich people to multi-bazillionaires to poor people. Like, it doesn't matter what level of income you have or where you come from. Family fights are family fights.
now, now we're speaking about the legal piece of it and having documentation and contracts and effectively. What do you think, since I'm sure you've done tremendous amounts of due diligence, what are the themes of disagreements, and could they be cut off at the pass, if you
Yes.
will, just by dealing with them? Like, what are some clusters? Because not everyone has like the Murdochs are, they're like from the show Succession, they don't have those kind of issues, but what are the clusters that
Yeah.
most common denominator issues derive from, and how could they be just with a kind word or whatever understanding be dealt with?
Absolutely. So there are two. One is mom and dad, or whichever one is left. There's one kid who needs more than the other kid, and they give more of an inheritance to the one who needs more. So, like, just as an example, you have one kid who's a teacher and one kid who's a lawyer. They leave more money to the kid who's a teacher than the kid who's a lawyer.
Yeah.
This causes bad feelings. The route to solve that problem is to discuss it ahead of time. And usually, what the lawyers have told me, that in any circumstance where the parents have told the kids ahead of time that this is what they want and this is what they plan to do, nobody messes with it. But if it comes out in a will that's read after death, or a trust that's read, that nobody knows about till the end, and it's one of those like movie scenes where they're reading the will and somebody
Yeah.
gets less than the other, then they start to dispute things. Then they start to take people to court. Then they have hurt feelings. Then people aren't talking to each other. And that's a disaster. That's not what mom and dad want, like that they die and then everybody fights and nobody talks to each other ever again. That's horrible. Like nobody could want that as an outcome to their dying. They're leaving money, they're leaving stuff. Like it should be not a celebration, but like you're getting a piece of your parents. It should
Understood.
be something that's positive, not negative. The other
Okay.
one is the evil step parent trope.
Oh,
Blended families are complicated, and if you have any sort of blended family, you need paperwork. You need, in most cases, a trust, because a trust can protect all the parties involved. And the typical case is, older father marries younger wife number two. Older father dies. He has kids from his first marriage. So typically what happens is the assets then pass to the new wife. And, the fight is over the new wife cuts the kids out from the first marriage and either leaves the money to her children, or just gets remarried, and it just gets further and further away from the person, who generated the money in the first place. Or sometimes what happens is the older father dies, um, and he has set it up so that his kids inherit, like the kids inherit his house, but the stepmother is still living there, and the kids don't care, and they kick her out with nothing, after being married to the dad for 10 or 15 or whatever years. And so these stories are horrible and they're sad, but they happen all the time. And there are so many hard feelings, like dad had a painting that you loved, um, and it went, and is now sitting in your estranged stepsister's living room, right? It should be yours, but it's not because it's sitting in somebody else's, chain of inheritance. And those things can all be solved with a trust set up ahead of time and have everybody understand what's going to happen to those assets.
And for those scenarios, the trust will work better than the will, generally speaking,
Yeah, I think what
because
I
it has
found from all
more
the lawyers
control.
I talked to, any conditions you want to put on things really
Mhm.
has to be in a trust or in a testamentary trust inside of a will, so that basically the will turns into a trust after the fact. But in that case, you have to probate the will to get that started, and so then you're in probate anyway. A trust can just a trust just springs into being as soon as the person dies, and that's um, the beauty of a trust in certain circumstances. If you have
can I
anything that merits a trust, it's very efficient.
just for if I can ask, and I like to level set all the time because I don't know the level of our audience. Could you do a quick and dirty on will, trust, and you said it the trust inside the will, the effectively the will becomes the trust.
Yeah,
Just a quick in case anyone's listening in and they're
yeah.
they're following along.
The thing I say in my book to get people to take a step back, because everybody's like, "Oh, this is too much for me." um, you're the client in this situation. You can't do any of this stuff by yourself. The thing that you need to do is get yourself to a professional, tell them what you want to accomplish. Say, in a second marriage, we both had kids from our first marriages. We have this many assets and we want to make sure that we do this fairly. That's your total responsibility as a human being in this circumstance. You don't have to do anything else. You are not responsible for the legal language or the structure of things or deciding which is best. Like that's a professional's job, and that's why you're paying them. And so it for you as a customer going to anybody to decide any of these things, it should be the same as going to a financial planner and telling them, filling out the form that tells them where your assets are and how much you have, or going to the doctor and filling out your medical history. Like that's it. That's all you as a person going to get this done need to know. Like people say, oh, I don't know which kind of trust. Like, don't worry about it. Like the attorney's going to figure that part out.
Mhm.
So, a will, just for shorthand, is power of attorney after death. Like, you are naming somebody um, who can make decisions for the dead version of you, to put it impolitely. Um, and it doesn't mean that that person inherits everything. It's like, that's the administrator. They are going to look at what's in the instructions in the will, and they are going to um, take care of the things. If you say Johnny gets the clock, they're going to take the clock and give it to Johnny. Now, what Johnny does with it after that is up to Johnny. This is why it gets complicated. Like, if you say in your will, I want $50,000 to go to my granddaughter Beth. I'm going to get $50,000. If you wanted me to get that $50,000 to spend on my college education, doesn't matter. I'm getting $50,000. I'm going to do with it as I please once it's in my hands. If I have a little sister, and you intended us each to get $25,000, but you put in your will, my granddaughter Beth gets $50,000 because the little sister wasn't born yet, little sister's not going to get anything. So the will is like a list of instructions for what you want to happen, but everything is sort of done in the moment, and whatever's on that paper is what happens. A trust is like a legal structure. It's like a legal entity that does business as, um, the name of the trust, like the Beth Pinsker Living Trust. And that trust springs into action as soon as you are deceased. And it can set conditions on things because the trust has a legal structure that's set in place ahead of time. And so if you want to say, I want my granddaughter to get $50,000 for the benefit of her college education, an executor, a trustee, can make that happen. They're not going to give you the money unless it's for your college education. So people try to put all sorts of conditions on things. Not all conditions are enforceable. Lawyers were telling me about people saying, I would only give you your inheritance if you were married, only give you your inheritance if you were married to somebody in the same religion, only give you your inheritance if you finished college. There's just too many um, ways that you can challenge those in court and say that they're not really sustainable or applicable. And, so you want to have conditions that are actually, fulfillable. And that's where, good trust planning comes into effect. And a good trust attorney will talk you out of the bad ones.
And those conditions, that's only possible through a trust. With the will, you
Yeah,
can't
with a
place
will, like, the
conditions.
gift is complete. Once it's made, the gift is considered done, and there's no further reach of the law. Um, if you want to put any conditions on it, then what I was talking about before is that you can create a trust inside the will. Um, and that will place the conditions on it. But it still starts out as a will, and a will has to go to probate. A trust doesn't have to go to probate. This is why we talk about trusts in financial planning, because trusts make assets easier to pass from one generation to the next. And when there's less friction, you end up losing less money along the way. Anything that goes to probate is subject to creditors. There are legal fees involved. All sorts of things that you want to avoid if you're, trying to preserve the assets for whoever you're giving them to.
And it can take multiple years. And in the book, you talk to one person who was not
Yeah.
negative on probate, but for the most part,
Yes. Do you guys know
people.
him?
No, I
Um, he's
remember
a
the name.
fixture. He's a fixture in the New York scene. I run into him all the time. He's a source of mine that I use often. He's very, very knowledgeable about this stuff. And to him, probate is no big deal. But his clients are wealthy, and when somebody dies, the lawyers take care of everything, and the lawyers sit through the and sift through all the probate stuff, and they're not really worried about anything. When my mom died, it was me. I was responsible for
Yeah.
everything, and probate meant a lot more to me in terms of time, in terms of expense of an attorney, and in terms of the assets being tied up. Um, we only needed a little probate, so it didn't hurt that bad. Like there was one account that was stuck and the rest of it was fine, and passed seamlessly. But, I talked to a guy whose mother left him a house and a will, and it took a full year before he was able to sell that house. And he had to sit on that house for a year. Um, and that's just how long things take.
Yeah, a year could even be short sometimes. On
Yeah.
this topic, we also the whole issue beneficiary designations and then funding
There
a
you go.
trust.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the financial power of attorney where you may have it, but it's not going to do a whole lot of good until you go to the institution. There's a
Yeah.
similar issue with trusts, living trusts, and then also beneficiary designations on accounts. If you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh, beneficiary designations are, the number one thing to pay attention to. So many people forget about these things. And if there's no beneficiary named, then you have to go to probate with that asset. So like if your parent had an IRA or something that had no beneficiary named, somebody's going to have to decide who that goes to, and that's going to be a court. So you're going to have to take the death certificate, take the will, take all of that, and go sort it out, on the back end. If there are beneficiary designations and they're wrong, if you think they're wrong, you're also going to have to go settle those things.
Now,
Yeah.
wrong is, I'm just for folks listening. Wrong as in wrong name, like, oh, that's not the person I wanted. Wrong as in it, like, there's a conflict with another document. Wrong, like how?
Or wrong
That,
as in
but
it's
also
somebody you divorced 20 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah, or wrong
Exactly.
as in or that one. Yeah, there
The
you go.
number one wrong thing is a lot of ex-wives end up inheriting retirement account and bank accounts because the spouse has never changed the beneficiary designation, and it doesn't go to their new spouse, it goes to their old spouse. A lot of people, like, my mother was my beneficiary on all of my documents. My mother is now deceased. So I had to go and update all of my beneficiary designations on my life insurance and on my, um, IRA and all of those things, because when I filled those things out, my children were minors, and it's very complicated to
Yeah,
leave assets to minors, and I'm divorced. So my mom was my person. And so my
sure.
mom was named on all of those documents so that if I died, the money would go to her, and then she would make sure it was taken care
Yeah,
of for my children. But then my mom died, and now I have a kid who's 19. So I had to go and update all of those things so that now everything goes to, my 19-year-old if anything
yeah.
happens to me. And in February, my other kid turns 18. And so I'll update it again. And if I should get remarried in a year or two, I will then have to make more updates. Like these are constantly changing things. And when you are, the thing about estate planning attorneys is that they typically meet with people, for that big first encounter, and then a lot of time goes by. When you're a financial planner, you're meeting with people regularly. You're there quarterly, monthly. Some people talk to their financial planners like, weekly, like all the time. They're on speed dial. You're their main contact. The financial planner is the one who's going to know first if something has changed in that person's life. That's who you're going to tell if you have a financial relationship with somebody, if you get divorced, if your kid gets married, if you're buying a new house. Like they're going to know all of that stuff much, much faster than an estate attorney. Like the estate attorney is not going to know that on a regular basis. They don't check in with you. You go to
Yeah.
them if you want to change something. But your financial planner has a really personal primary relationship with you. And so they're the ones who need to be out there prompting people to say, your kid just turned 19, or, your mom just died. Was she named on anything? Oh, you got divorced. Let's go through your beneficiary designations and update those. Because I know you
Actually,
had this change.
it's a good point. It's part of our meeting prep checklist for a client at McLean. Beneficiary designation checks it's always a thing, just to make sure, hey, we're good here, we're good. Like it's just part of a standard workflow. So to your point, yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, but a lot of people out there don't have somebody like you on their team. They have, a representative at the financial institution who doesn't have
Sure,
a
I got
steady
you.
relationship with them. It's they call the 800 number,
Yeah,
and
a
that's
person at a
just
retail office that you don't. Yeah, I see. That like a walk-ins or something like that. It's probably
yeah,
not a thing you think about.
exactly. The most contact that a regular person has, if they even have this much contact, is making an IRA or a Roth um, contribution, in April, each year. And they call and they put the money in there. And then
Gotcha.
what we know from like Fidelity and Vanguard statistics is that they deposit the money and then they don't know that they have to invest the money and nobody follows up with them because they don't have a financial relationship and the money
Cool.
sits there in cash. Like 40% of Fidelity's IRA money is sitting in cash right now because nobody knows that they
Wow.
have to invest it.
Really?
Yeah.
40%?
Yeah.
What's the what is
Yeah.
do you know
40%
nominally
of
how much that is?
It's not 40% of the assets, I'm sorry, it's 40% of the people who make an IRA contribution don't invest
Oh, okay.
Oh,
money. That's
are
still a lot of
That
are
money.
many?
100%
Wow.
yes.
Yeah,
Yo,
40
no, it's true. I'm curious either way. What is that nominally? That must
Yeah,
be
so
just
this is in my category of numbers that should be 100%. 100% of people should have powers of attorneys and healthcare proxies, and probably 10% of people do. 100% of people should have a will or a trust, some sort of afterlife document, and 30% do. 100% of people should invest their IRA contributions, and 60% do. Like these are numbers that should be 100.
you know how there's like the Pareto, whatever ratio, 80/20? There's
Yeah.
gonna be the Beth ratio. 10/90. No, 10/90, all right? Like
Yeah.
10% of people have it, but 90 should.
I don't want anybody to have these hard times, you know?
You gotta come up with something. The Pinsker
Yeah,
whatever, the Pinsker proportion. The Pinsker proportion or something like that.
exactly.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Uh, you said something about property. We were getting you had mentioned settling a house a year. It's been a year now, et cetera, et cetera. I've had plenty of horror stories myself about especially vacation property, settling that between siblings. One wants to keep it because of the nostalgia as opposed to the practicality, et cetera. And neither right or wrong. I'm just pointing out what it is. Walk us through a day in the year, I guess, of
Yeah.
settling a property when there's some discordant thoughts among
Yeah, so I
members,
went through
or
this
or even the standard settling.
Yeah, I went through this myself. I mean, I put this whole thought process in the book. When my mom died, she had this condo in Florida that was wonderful. Like it was a fabulous place. It
Sure.
had an ocean view, and I loved it, and I would have done anything to be able to keep it. But it was 1,000 miles away, and it's a 2-bedroom apartment. There's me and my 2 kids, and my brother and his family, and there wouldn't ever be enough place for us to stay there all together. I think the phrase I use in
Oh yeah.
the book is it's not the Kennebunkport Bush compound. Um, when I stayed there with my mom, I slept on
Hey, don't knock Cape Canaveral.
yeah. I slept on an air mattress in the laundry room when I visited my mom. Like it wasn't a big place.
Oh wow.
And so to keep it, you know, would have been crazy. We just couldn't do it. And so we had to sell it. And luckily for us, my mom had put it in this trust and we could sell it right away. And we had a very, the selling season everywhere is different, but in her neck of the woods, you had to sell before the weather got cold, because that's when people, would come and they'd be like the selling season ended,
Gotcha.
and it had to be a cash deal, because Florida's crazy, and everything had to be buttoned up and done. And other people have let houses sit. The cousins, when you get down in family lines and you have cousins who don't even know each other, it gets really complicated. You can't account for all of this in a trust or a will all the time.
And also, I mean, your book goes into so much. You weren't able to sell it right away because as you quoted George Carlin, the life is all about finding a place to put your stuff.
Yes.
And you first had to deal with like the stuff to
Yeah.
make the condo ready to be sold.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation.
That is a whole nother conversation. This one agent that we had come, we interviewed agents to sell the house. And this one agent who had sold another house, another apartment in the building, said that the kids just abandoned. Like the kids were like, we don't have time for this. Just take care of it for us. And it took him 5 months to clean out this apartment before he could put it on the market because it was so full up of junk. And we needed to move fast. And so my brother and I were like, okay, we'll take care of as much as we can take care of. And then we went on a super blitz. But it wasn't very long after my mom died that we were going through this. So my mom died in July, and we're talking about mid-August. So it's maybe 6 weeks after she died. We're trying to clean out her stuff. It was hard. Like that is not something I was emotionally ready to do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. There's difficulty hard, but there's emotionally taxing, especially you're with your brother, and
I didn't want to throw out anything. Like I couldn't part with anything that she had touched. I couldn't part with any piece of paper that had her handwriting on it, but it stacks up. I live in a small place in Brooklyn. My brother has, limited space too. Like what were we going to do with all this? There's no good answer to any of that. Like nobody wants your stuff at the end of the day. And like you look around your room and like all your tchotchkes are going to end up as somebody else's trash, not their treasure. And one thing I'm suggesting that people do this holiday season, and I have a piece coming out of Market Watch about this might air sometime around there, but one thing that I really regret is that we never got time to tape my mom telling us the story of all of her stuff, and maybe then some of it would have had more of an impact on us because we forgot some of the stories. You might know we knew where some of the stuff had come from, but like every knickknack that somebody puts on their shelf has to mean something to them to get that place. It's like, when you put your kids' homework on the fridge, right? You only put the 100%, so you don't put the 62s. It's a fridger if it's good. And, so if it's on a shelf, it means something. But we didn't know what some of the stuff meant. And, what I want to tell everybody to do is like, if you're around for the holidays, take out a camera and instead of starting some big discussion about, life insurance and where all the assets are, just say, hey, Mom, where'd this flower pot come from? Is this special to you? And tape her telling you what it is. Because like we might have thrown out stuff that was valuable. We had no idea.
Yeah, you had a Maltese Falcon to figure out. There's our movie reference.
Figured out.
Yeah, wow.
We figured out the Maltese
Falcon.
Yeah, it was from Target.
Big John Huston fan.
It was not encrusted with jewels.
No, but the Maltese Falcon is still there, I think. I don't know. We in each elevator lobby of my mom's building, they had like a curio cabinet. And we went down in the elevator at like 2 a.m. and we snuck it into the cabinet with a little memorial posted on the bottom of it. So hopefully it's
here's one for wait. If Beth's mom was an avid bobsledder, a little sled, for a child, and she kept it all her life, what would be the name of that sled?
Rosebud.
Oh!
Yeah, I've been watching movies. Not as many as you.
My dad actually had a miniature Rosebud sled.
Did it?
Yeah, I don't think we kept it.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. He was a big fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably a good place. I think we've covered a lot, and there's so much more in there. So I would encourage everyone, if these are issues you've been thinking about and didn't know where to start, the incapacity and legacy planning, it's the new book just out this month, My Mother's Money, A Guide to Financial Caregiving by Beth Pinsker.
It's available everywhere. And you can also get it on my website, which is just bethpinsker.com. But it's on, all the major sellers.
And Beth, where can folks also find out about your work? you had mentioned Market Watch and the like. You want to give our listeners 411 on where they can find out more?
Yeah, so I am my name everywhere I go. I keep it simple. I'm BethPinsker.com. I'm Beth Pinsker on social media. On Market Watch, I'm easily found. I have a little thing on the front page that says Beth Pinsker. My column is called Fix My Portfolio. And yeah, it's been 30 years in this business, so I am pretty easy to find.
All right.
Great.
Thank you so much. This was insightful, even for everyone. I got a lot of it myself. So thank you so much for this.
Oh yeah, I mean, just another thing I learned from the book, you can pretty much create a legacy designation on your phone so that someone can have permission to unlock it. I never knew about that, but you had the step-by-step instructions. So it's just
Everybody needs to do
another
that.
example.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's kind of like
you
the
do it,
in case of
And now I think we should ask, well, what do you do? We
Did
kind
you
of
do it?
teasing our.
Did you?
Oh no, I haven't yet. I just read it last
See?
night on the plane, but
Okay, well, it takes 30
just
seconds.
because okay, can you tell our audience then, just because it sounds like a tease, if we don't say how to do it now?
Yeah, there were instructions both for iPhones and Androids, but yeah.
Yes. Basically, the easiest way to do it is to explain it is the iPhone. You just go to your settings, you click on the little picture of yourself, and there is a setting that when you on that drop down for legacy contact, and you name somebody like to be a beneficiary for your phone, and it kicks out a QR code that you leave with all your important documents. And if something should happen to you, they just have to scan that QR code, and it'll give them instructions. Because you don't know, like so many people have these sad stories of their loved one dies or is in a car accident or something, and they don't know their passcode. Like you think you know somebody's passcode, but people change their passcodes all the time. And some older people change their passcodes and then don't remember their passcodes. And so you need to secure that phone. That phone is the key to everything. And if you name a legacy contact, then you can have access to that phone. Otherwise, you're just like the FBI in a crime case and you can't get into it.
Yeah, so that's just another example that why everyone should check out My Mother's Money. And yeah, thank you, Beth, for joining us for the two-parter episode. This will be now 2 days before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And
happy Thanksgiving.
We'll catch you next time on Retire with Style.
Thank you.